Somebody has summoned the power of YubTub to start the live stream, so who am I to resist the mighty power of YubTub? Good morning, everybody. How the hell are you? It is another weekend. It is Sunday, midday over here in New Zealand. Let's eat some cheese. Okay, so I'm returning once again to my favourite cheese, the Puhui Distinction Blue Cheese, which I've already cut open to save me slicing my finger open and bleeding on live cam, which would not be cool. So this one's not particularly mouldy on the outside, but when you look at the inside, I just cut it crosswise. You can see how they make it, is they actually inject the blue mould into the cheese after it's been formed, so compressed, and then it basically grows from the inside. So let's dig in, shall we? It's actually been like a week since I had any blue cheese. It's delicious. I saw that some of you guys were guessing what sort of cheese it would be. Cheese for the cheese god. Cheese and Dungeons and Dragons goes together. It just does. Yeah, slicing my fingers open, blood for the blood god. Slicing my fingers open and bleeding all over the place would probably get me demonetized. What can I say? It'll probably get quite a few views. Let's put it that way. But I'm not going to slice myself open just to get some views. Thank you very much. Maelstrom and the Blood Sea. So the Maelstrom is referring to, of course, the latest announcements of Dungeons and Dragons, which is that they're going to be finally taking us on a trip to the first layer of the Nine Hells. And Baldur's Gate. They're going to be detailing Baldur's Gate for 5th edition, which so far has only been homebrewed as far as I know, although there's some really good products out there. Yeah, injection mold. Oh, sorry to hear that, Jordan. Can't stick around, but from one monster nerd to another, wish you best of luck. Same here, man. I wish you the very best always. So today also, a special treat. This is one of the apples that is grown organically, no sprays or anything like that, from the tree in my backyard. So I'm going to have a slice of apple to go with my blue cheese. Apples grow fairly well here, as do avocados. And I'm going to share with you a little recipe, which is like you make a cocoa mousse, a chocolate mousse out of avocado, and it works really well. I'll share that recipe later on when we are harvesting avocados. Holy crap, this knife is sharp. Went through this apple like it was butter. Yeah. Currently playing Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Huh. Hey, Greensides, Sean, Jibble. Let's get nerdy up in here. Yeah, avocados go really well. So avocado and cocoa, basically cocoa, come from the same place. So they combine really well. So the South Americans had been eating chocolate for a very long time. In fact, some of their most priceless artifacts of archaeology are chocolate bowls that they'd bury with emperors. And there was one which was a gift from one kingdom to another. It was a personal chocolate drinking bowl. That was delicious. Nice one, Dragon Lord. Yeah, apples are fantastic. When you consider that it's basically just a swollen up stem of an apple tree, with lots of powdery fluid containing pulp with sugar in it. It's pretty amazing. Does the trick for us apes, that's for sure. Gets us to do the tree's bidding, spread their seeds, propagate their fruit. Yeah, Baldur's Gate, the city that wants to be as popular as Waterdeep so much that it just can't make it. Well, Baldur's Gate, as we know, it's a particularly gritty setting, this one. The Zentarum are at work in Baldur's Gate. It's on the cusp of the Kingdom of Arm, and Arm has got an aggressive expansionist past where they invaded Mazdaca across the Trackless Sea. Kind of like they're the conquistadors of Dungeons and Dragons. Their culture is a religious trading empire. So it's pretty exciting. And I have no idea what the storyline is. And I've only really just seen a bit of the live stream, which was Kate Welch and Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins sitting down and answering questions. Yeah, but it was good to see them all together. What monsters do I want to see in the Nine Hells? Essentially, I'm expecting to see a lot of specialist demons and devils. And also some creatures which are native to Avernus, which is a concept that most people don't really get, is that Avernus is a place. It's like a planet sort of thing. What happened to Mazdaca? Mazdaca, so there's essentially like a new Arm place in Mazdaca. So Arm has got like a little outpost, a mercenary outpost in Chult, and it's also got a small kingdom area in Mazdaca, on like a peninsula. That's but the rest of it, of course, is tabaxi-ridden jungles. So yeah, Infernal War Machines. I'm looking forward to it. I'm a little bit concerned about their whole Fury Road bullshit, because when you start getting too thematic with a plane of existence, it ends up being a little bit, you know. I know they're in love with the idea of piloting Infernal War Machines across the blasted terrain of Avernus, but it's the Nine Hells. You don't want to attract attention to yourself in the Nine Hells. You're going to end up getting absolutely trashed. Particularly because, what level is this adventure taking place at? Is it like a 10th level or higher? Who knows? So the original natives of the Nine Hells were essentially the Oberith. They formed the first sort of demons, you could say. And yeah, it's tricky, really. The Nine Hells was around... Oh, nice one. Congratulations, Jimmy. Yeah, to all of you people who have just finished your finals for college, congratulations. For those of you who are graduating, congratulations. Yeah, pixies are fairies, not all fairies are pixies. Pixies are sprites, but sprites are sprites, but they're not fairies. Plane of Blood, yeah. So one of the interesting things that I saw there was they were mentioning engines that could consume souls, and also lakes of demonic ichor that could be used to power the infernal engines, and the fact that you could basically strap together bits of infernal engines and use them. One thing that's been percolating in the back of my mind recently, I don't know why, but it just sort of stuck there, was the idea of demons being warped, or devils being warped into living artifact weapons. I like that idea, and I think maybe we might see something like that in the book. Who knows? Would you be encountering dragons native to the Nine Hells? Well, dragons, where are dragons native to? Nowhere. Dragons are from where? Where did the dragons evolve? They didn't really. They're all fey-fey. But there are dragons which are naturalized to these places. One of the things I like to think about with dragons is, since they are a living entity that is basically like a reptilian genasi. Let's look at it that way, okay? So they're part elemental and they're part all biological. Whatever place they come from, they're going to be channeling a lot of energy from that place. So it's going to influence, not only is the environment going to influence what they look like morphologically, because they've got to adapt to the environment and that will determine what they look like, sort of thing, because they're adapting to the conditions. But also they're going to have the predominant energy of that environment is going to be flowing through them as well. It's as much a part of their biology as anything else, and the power flows through them and back into the environment, so they influence the environment just as much as the environment influences them. So that's why you have this incredible diversity of dragons, is they're so adaptable to whatever conditions they find themselves in. Hail Lord Vector. Yeah, so the story of the origin of dragons in Forgotten Realms, for instance, is in the Forgotten Realms there was these dragons that I mentioned in a previous video, in the very early history of dragons, before dragons proper arrived, and that was in a time known as the Reign of Tears, which is where some of Saloon's tears basically rained down on the planet, causing massive devastation. But dragons arrived, and the question is like, were dragons from an outer world? Because we know that Faerunus and realm space is just a sphere in a multi-dimensional, multiversal sort of planescapey, spelljammery type setting. So were the dragons native to somewhere else? Did they travel? Are they capable of traveling through the phlogiston in the form of eggs or something like that, and then raining down on other planets? Are they basically a multiversal species that has invaded everywhere? Because any sort of environment in Dungeons and Dragons you come across, there's dragons there. They're just prevalent everywhere. I mean, it's in the name, Dungeons and Dragons. So where did dragons come from originally? Were they created? Did they evolve somewhere? We don't know. Do we really need to know? Yeah, exactly. So it could be, as Zion the Dragon says, we would think Sardior being between Bahamut and Tiamat, he would rule somewhere in a lawful neutral place, like the 8 Purgatories or such, not a castle in the overworld. Yeah. Yeah, so Tiamat is in the 9 Hells. She is on Avernus. She's got her own spot in Avernus, which is close to the portal leading down to the next layer of the 9 Hells. So, as you said, she's very much forming the role of Cerberus, or Cerebus, the three-headed dog of Greek mythology. So she's the guardian of the underworld. And as far as Tiamat is concerned, she is the ruler of Avernus whenever she's walking around on Avernus. So nobody contests her power openly. Of course, when she goes back to her realm, then everything gets back to normal in Avernus. Every now and then she may in fact get involved in the Blood War and just land and kill a lot of demons just for fun. But really, she doesn't really care either way. She's completely narcissistic in that regard. Oh yeah, the Kiwi mug. Cheers. The story of Abeir is that it was split off from Toril, and it was given over to the primordials. So dragons are primordial. They're elemental creatures. Yes, we need to know, have you gone mad? Well, you know, there's a lot of stuff which is subjective, and as we've learned with the story of the Lachey and the Spellweavers and various other races and histories, there's multiple histories that in a setting, in a high fantasy environment where time travel is possible and gods are moving backwards and forwards through time, and the Blood War exists throughout time. There's always angels falling. There's always new devils being created. There's the Blood War is eternal, and it's like the fight between the Daleks and the Time Lords. It's always happening somewhere. And same sort of thing with the Illithid, the Mind Flayer Empire. It's both in decline and on the rise at the same time, always. And eventually they will take over everything. So there's a time where they did rule, and they created other races. So how did the Githyanki travel backwards in time as well? Or is the Empire of the Mind Flayers in the past? Or is it in the future? We don't know. Yeah, I'm just saying that when Tiamat is walking around on the surface of Avernus, everybody says, yes, you're in charge. Because you don't want to contest that fact with Tiamat. She's not somebody that you want to contend with. So when she says, I'm in charge, everybody else says, yes, ma'am, you are. And as soon as she goes away, they're like, is the coast clear? Whew. Okay, let's get back to business as normal. So there's a lot of tippy-toeing around Tiamat. Yeah, Tiamat's like, I rule this place, and Asmodeus is like, you what? Excuse me? It's convenient for Asmodeus to have Tiamat around at the footstep of, the Nine Hells. More importantly, though, the reason why Asmodeus lives in Nessus, in the core of the Nine Hells, is not because that's the safest place for him to be. It's because that's where the doorway exists that allows him to go anywhere in the multiverse. So he can step through, technically, somebody can step through there and go anywhere. And Asmodeus essentially guards a portal to anywhere. There's another portal much like that, which leads out of the multiverse, and that is at the very tip of the seven mounting heavens of Celestia. So it's like an axis, okay? At the very top is Celestia, and at the very top of Celestia is a portal that leads out of the multiverse into the place where the overgods, where Ao and the others operate. And at the very bottom of the multiverse is a doorway that leads back into anywhere in the multiverse. It's kind of weird. Yeah, very useful. Yeah, Carl Sagan would have had a field day in the physics of the D&D world. He'd be like, what? This makes no sense. Asmodeus isn't afraid of Tiamat. He's just got no reason to contend with Tiamat. In fact, when you think about it, it's quite convenient to have Tiamat on your doorstep so that you can go and negotiate with her and through her the obedience of all of the chromatic dragons throughout the multiverse. The exception to that would be, well, there's a deal with the Githyanki and the Red Dragons. Kiwiak speak. Yeah, Tiamat is much stronger than Zariel and much weaker than Asmodeus. Yeah. So to put it into perspective, on Avernus, every now and then they will have war exercises, right? Where they are training their devil armies, the ranks of bearded devils and stuff, to fight big, nasty interdimensional beasties, because they never know exactly what they're going to contend with in the Abyss once they ever get there. Bearsford Roper would not try and take down Tiamat. That's beyond their pay grade. So these war exercises, they may do things like arrive in the Forgotten Realms, find the Tarask, capture it, take it back to Avernus, and let it loose for their armies to practice on. And if it makes too much noise, Tiamat will show up and kick its ass. And then kick everybody else's ass and tell them, what are you doing? And everybody will be like, yes, ma'am. In theory, she's not restricted. She can travel anywhere she wants. But she doesn't tend to. Zariel is a fallen angel, essentially. She's an angel that got involved. She was supposed to be, I think this is correct, she was supposed to be observing the Blood War, making sure that things didn't go one way or the other too far in the Blood War, because Avernus is like a stepping stone into the mortal universe that the demons try and pour through all the time. Remember, that portal down the bottom of Avernus that goes anywhere, that's a massive tactical advantage for demons when you think about it. An open portal to go anywhere. And all that needs to happen is for them to go to undiscovered places, little known, and quietly propagate themselves to form up that enough, get that demonic energy over the threshold to start switching that plane over to another layer of the abyss. So that is what Asmodeus is guarding. Too many creatures based on Bibbles. Wow. There's a lot of different creatures in Dungeons and Dragons which are based on other religions. So pick and choose. Yeah, the Behemoth and the Leviathan. What else? The Zizbird. Nope. Yeah, so she was an angel that was supposed to be observing the Blood War, and she ended up getting involved against orders. Much like Asmodeus was an angel that was supposed to be guarding a tomb, a prison, got bored with it, saw an opportunity, and became Asmodeus. Why does knowing a creature's true name give you dominion over them? I don't know. That's just one of the tropes of fantasy. I don't know the specific reason for it. So let's switch planes to other layers of the abyss. Wow. Do you think there should be more angels or celestials? Are they interesting enough to warrant more of them? Yeah. So the more interesting aspect of it that you don't see a lot of in Dungeons and Dragons is Archons. So Archons are like the workaday troops of Dungeons and Dragons celestial armies. The angels themselves they predate the Seven Heavens, and they predate the whole Blood War thing. So angels are primordials essentially, but they're primordials of the astral realm. So they're thought beings. That's why they're immortal. Have I done a video on Dendar the Night Serpent? What more do you need to know about Dendar? Little is known about Dendar, actually, other than what I've mentioned several times in other videos. What happened to the Pit Fiend that rose to the rank of Archduke of the First Layer? Was he retconned, killed, or replaced? The Dark Eight has changed membership a few times, and there's various demon lords and devil lords. The ranks of the devils in the Nine Hells has changed because it's like politics. This is one of the things that I contend with quite often when I'm talking about especially whenever a new product for Dungeons and Dragons comes out. You inevitably get those who say, look, the Forgotten Realms grey box set is fine for me. I've never changed it. I always play within that timeline. Everything that they've changed has been bad. I'm just going to stick with the original products and never buy anything else. Fine. But, stay out of the forums of people who are talking about the latest products, because it's got nothing to do with you, really. So Dungeons and Dragons Forgotten Realms in particular it's a living campaign setting. It's a living campaign world. It's always changing, and that is what makes it so captivating for people who love to collect information on lore and stuff and learn about this sort of thing, because it's always being updated, and it's alive and it's active, and we can contribute to it, and it's being modified and changing. Like Acquisitions Incorporated now is a part of the Forgotten Realms. Holophants, actually, whatchamacallit, Loxodons. I want to make a video about Loxodons as well from Magic the Gathering and Ravnica. Let me just go through some of these questions. Haven't done the video. If the Abyss is eating parts of infinite planes at a finite rate, will it take an infinite amount of time to eat the multiverse? At the current rate, yeah, it will. That was one of the things. That was the thing that was so shocking about what the Queen of Chaos did to Obox Ob, and she was so selfish and narcissistic that she thought that she could do everything better, and the only way that she could beat Obox Ob was by doing a completely illogical thing, which is basically stopping then taking over the multiverse, just to take over it herself, and it kind of backfired spectacularly. I mean, if her fight against the forces of law was successful, then she would have had control over the astral planes as well, and the elemental planes, but it wasn't. She got it handed to her by the Wind Dukes of Aqua. What are my favourite Bible creatures? I don't know. Wagon wheel angels that are on fire. Activity versus entropy, yeah. Knowing the true name of a thing is like gaining the metaphysical program or spirit DNA of a thing before one can control it. Therefore, one can control the nature and action of a thing. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell, William. Thank you. Favourite biblical creatures? I don't really have any favourite biblical creatures. What would archangels be on the ranking of heaven? So the Solars, I believe it is. is it Solars? The top ranking of the angels. So it's kind of divided up into the three types of angels that we see here, which are a good template. So we've got the Diva, the Planetar, and the Solar. And the Solar are so powerful that only a few of them are operating at any particular time. So those are pretty much your archangels that aren't demigods, essentially. And there's a lot of, so angels are different from celestials. Archons are different from celestials as well. Celestials blurs quite a lot with the Fae, for instance. So Archfae can actually be celestials as well. And you see that reflected in the seasonal nature of Eladrin, for instance. And also you have inevitables, which are essentially almost like supermodrons. They're constructs that are absolutely locked into the laws of the universe. So it's complicated. Oh, the Githyanki and the Red Dragons have got a deal due to something that happened in the past between Tiamat and the Lich Queen of the Githyanki, I think. I'll need to look that up. I'm not going to talk about the last season of Game of Thrones. I will say this, though, that people forming a petition to get HBO to redo the Game of Thrones season is one of the most entitled things I've ever heard of. I mean, come on. Jeez. It's like a petition to redo the Star Wars movies. Yeah, so angels are complicated, and celestials are very, very powerful. Very powerful. When you think about it, so the devils have to fight their way they have to scrape and connive and claw their soul power. Their soul power is used to fuel their ability to enact changes of reality. The celestials don't have to fight for that. Soul power is just given to them. And so they can snap their fingers and do things that the devils would take centuries to be able to do. So the devils, they don't contend with the angels because the angels would kick their asses. Seriously. So one of the things is, I get that quite often as a comment from people of like, well, why aren't there more good creatures in Dungeons and Dragons? There are plenty of good creatures. There's these islands of light. There's these areas of civilization. There's these good creatures which protect areas. Angels, for instance, can protect an area. They can calm the weather. Gold dragons can make places of peace and calm by sending dreams into evil entities that just turn them away from their course of action. But there are places of threat, and in those places of threat, evil lurks and festers and conglomerates, But there are plenty of forces of light in Dungeons and Dragons, and they are very powerful. The dragons in Game of Thrones are wyverns, that's true. They don't talk, and they don't have four limbs. Are the outer planes arranged in the Great Wheel because of their alignment in a relationship between each other is based on it? So it's arranged in a wheel for our benefit. That's got nothing to do with what their actual position in reality is. I mean, what are they? They're in a vibrational state. They're a different train of thought through the astral plane. So, yeah, it's a representation, much like anything else. It's a simulation. What do you think is the strongest being aside from overgods in the Forgotten Realms? Well, the gods, obviously. Next to that would probably be the Empyreans, and the dragons are on a par with the Empyreans, and some of the storm giants are extremely powerful, and of course primordials, Dagon, that sort of thing. Yes, I have run an adventure in the Nine Hells. Yeah. I. Mm, yeah, the Arinyi are. Yeah, exactly. The Arinyi are fallen angels. Exactly. Are there being new angels created? I don't think there needs to be new angels created. It's unclear to me whether archons are promoted to the rank of angel or not. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, they're immortal, and they can be raised from the dead if they die in outer planes, but I think they're vulnerable if they get killed in celestial space. If they get killed in the astral realm, I don't know. I'll have to look up. I'm due to redo the angel video soon anyway, so um, we will get to this for sure. One of the funniest things I saw, I posted it, was like a Lego set with of King's Landing, and it was just thousands and thousands of individual bricks. Other than Bahir, Rocks, Remoras, and Hellhounds, what other creatures serve true giants? Well, giant versions of pretty much anything. So you can have celestial versions of any sort of terrestrial creature, and you can have giant versions of pretty much most celestial creatures, and that's what giants do. They breed giant things. Um, so yeah. Other than that, one-off creatures like Chimera and stuff like that, and any sort of mage bred thing could be a giant creation as well, because the giants use magic. And they were engaged in an all-out war of genocide with the dragons. So a lot of the monstrous creatures that you see in Forgotten Realms were not the creation of miniature mortal spellcasters. They were the creation of giants and dragons who were engaged in any sort of activity to kill their opposing member, which were very powerful and would stop at nothing to kill them too. So it was a total war. The dwarves and the elves also engaged in some pretty nefarious practices as well, not only with their efforts to stay alive during this time of conflict, but also in their fight against each other. So the dwarves used a lot of primordial magic, they used a lot of runic magic, and they created lots of golems and things like that, and powerful rune weapons. And the elves formed mythals and things like that, but they also had a lot more interdimensional relations with dark powers than the dwarves did. So that's where you get things like half demonic elves, gold elves. Yeah, Corinne are also very good. Succubus wears a pantsuit fedora and smokes a cigar. Got to have a feather in that fedora. Could you run an adventure in the Abyss? Yeah, absolutely. So the Abyss isn't overrunning. Isn't overrun and teeming with demons. For the most part, the Abyss is an empty place that occasionally the demons will show up. But the demons flock towards violence. The Abyss is the broken wasteland that's left after they've corrupted everything. So quite often the Abyss is unique environments, broken environments, very hostile and nasty environments with native creatures that were the only things that have survived on that plane of existence. And every now and then there will be a demon that just sort of shows up. But for the most part, it's weird and twisted things and lesser demons. The greater demons are involved in the war to take over reality. So they are drawn to places of conflict. Angels serve neutral or evil gods? Yeah, they don't. So the neutral and evil gods have also got the mercenaries to deal with. So the Yugoloths, for instance, serve a lot of the neutral and evil gods. They don't necessarily have to contend with the angels. The angels just do their thing anyway. Yeah, unfortunate humans. Have you seen the third-party book Odyssey of the Dragonlord? Somebody mentioned that the other day, that there's so much homebrew we're in danger of getting methanol poisoning. That was one hell of a good comment. Thank you very much. That made me laugh. There is so much homebrew that I cannot possibly read it all. So if there's something which you think is really good, like really good, by all means let me know. Particularly if it's something that hasn't been covered by anything else. But if it's just like the next version of psionic stuff or an alternate artificer or something like that, that's less interesting to me. But if somebody's done a big book of sauropods, that's interesting. Aren't giants more like elephants or sauropod dinosaurs? No. Giants. So Anam came to the world of Toril from elsewhere, much like many other species in the Forgotten Realms. So the Mulan are a combination of two different human groups that come from Earth, for instance. Both the different populations of orcs come from off-world. The elves have come from off-world. The dwarves are creations of gods. The Saruk, the Eri, and the Batrachi, as far as I know, were all native to the Forgotten Realms. So the first empires of the creator races were native, and I believe that humans are also possibly native of the Forgotten Realms as well. Gnomes were created. The Fae were brought over as well. What else? Dragons, of course, come from off-world, but there may have been a proto-dragon, an ur-dragon beforehand. What else? Yeah, so it's a mismatch, really. Are you saying St. Cuthbert utilizes demons? No. What creature on Toril or the Forgotten Realms would be best suited for a cosmic horror D&D campaign? I'm torn between a Kraken and an Aboleth as the big bad. Well, the Aboleth would be fantastic for that, as well as Mind Flayers and Beholders, the Grick and the Grell, any sort of aberration, for sure. Some of the demons, like the Dream Demons, for instance, they're pretty good candidates as well. Lucas, no, I haven't really. No. Although I have played other game settings which weren't D&D, so that's where I get my fill for non-magic stuff. But I've never played a non-magic D&D game, or a very, very low magic D&D game. That's not what D&D is about for me, personally. On the topic of Yugoloths, are there any notable Bearnoloths? I don't know if I'm not off the top of my head. I can't think of any named Bearnoloths. They're quite important though to the overall history of the Yugoloths. Though those were the ones that made the deal. Essentially, they did the Boba Fett deal with the clone makers. So they showed up to the hags, a very powerful coven of hags, and said, clone my evil into these creatures, and they will serve you as mercenaries. Essentially, they'll serve a neutral faction. And the hags went, okay, and so they took the essence of the Bearnoloths and they created the Yugoloth species. No, that doesn't conflict with the Soul Forge in the positive plane. In fact, that would make a lot of sense that the dwarves have their own souls, because they do operate under very weird sort of circumstances. For instance, when a bunch of dwarves get together and craft stuff, they create a sort of soul energy, a creative soul energy. So it's for them, crafting stuff is almost like a prayer, which allows them to do divine stuff. So yeah, I mean, there can definitely be multiple soul places. One of the interesting things is the Warforged, right? The Gilra symbol on the Warforged's forehead is a primordial sort of, possibly a supernal thing. But we don't know exactly where those souls come from. It's never really made clear. That could be the basis of an entire campaign. Tome of Beasts and the Tome of Foes. Oh, the Creature Codex, sorry. Tome of Beasts and the Creature Codex. Yeah. Believe you me, everybody, after I've finished the Monster Manual, it's hardly like I've got no work to do. Not only have I got 76 videos that I need to update, but I've got 2 books of over, how many pages? Many pages worth of creatures, and also lots of creatures from the prehistory of Dungeons & Dragons, so Fiend Folio, all that sort of stuff. And I'd like to start having a look at Dungeon Magazine as well. We've seen a lot of stuff out of Dragon Magazine, but there's also lots and lots of adventures in Dungeon Magazine which are just going to get lost unless they get brought to you to show you what they can do. Weren't the original dragons also created by gods, like the ones by Io, Bahamut, Tiamat, and Sardior? Yeah, but where did they come from in the first place? It's one of those chicken and eggs things. Dragon Turtle. No, the gods don't have the abilities to make souls. Good question. If I could... oh, hang on, there's a couple more questions here. I have a homebrew creature named Berict Olme, and would love you to check it out and on D&D Beyond. Oh, okay, Carlos, sure. Is there a way to replace elven souls that have been destroyed, lost outside of the multiverse, or just not reincarnated, sold their soul, worship another god, etc.? So the whole elven reincarnation thing, I take that with a large grain of salt. It's a relatively recent sort of addition, I think. Well, it doesn't really matter where the soul is. If somebody casts a true resurrection spell, it will snap it back into the body if the soul is consenting, I believe. So if you're going to spend a 9th level spell on it, yeah, it'll work. If you could host a game for 3 celebrities, who would I choose? Let's see. Host a game for 3 celebrities. Do they have to like D&D, or could it be any celebrity? In my game, there is an army made up mostly of Yuan-Ti, lizardfolk, troglodytes, ophidians, and were-crocodiles. Have any ideas on what roles these races would take in an army? Ooh, that's a pretty big question. Yuan-Ti would be the cold calculating commanders. Lizardfolk, definitely commandos. Troglodytes would be your shock troopers and sappers, able to dig underground. Ophidians essentially would be serving in the trenches, and were-crocodiles would be specialist troops that can infiltrate and absolutely devastate within the enemy camp, because they can go in as in a human form and of course disrupt from behind front lines. Which came first, the dragon or the egg? Other species create eggs. In what edition did I start D&D? Well, I started in D&D Basic Red Box set back in the 1980s, and we launched into AD&D, so 2nd edition was essentially my jam. I never played 1st edition until much later. I tried it out and went, well, this is basically like Basic. So I've never been one for the old school revival. I like some of the old school products and stuff, but I've always just played the latest edition of D&D, which is currently in play. I just move on from one to the next. I've never had any issue changing from one edition to the other. It's just a natural evolution of the game as far as I'm concerned. Mr. Rex released a video talking about the wyvern being the first dragon species. Oh yeah, okay. Yep. I've been really impressed with Mr. Rex's Dragon series as of late. Those have been really good. Sort of clickbaity titles, but that's okay. And he's keeping them under within about 10 or 12 minutes or so, which is pretty good. Of course, my Dragon videos are pretty dated now, and I'm looking so forward to updating those. So we'll see how they compare, shall we? And I should mention, I'm not in competition with Mr. Rex. First of all, he's got a huge channel that built up by reviewing game stuff for Skyrim and things like that. So in a different sort of kettle of fish. But now he's making the same sort of stuff that I do. Of course, it gets a lot of attention from people who are comparing me and him. But his channel's huge compared to mine. And I really like what he does. So there's no bone of contention there whatsoever. Which is why I mentioned him and Jordan and Forgotten Realms Explained, you know, all that sort of stuff. Because Arthur Godawa and the monsters. Are you sure it's a chicken and an egg story? Was certainly only UP existed when he created the other dragons. The other died to make Tiamat and Bahamut, or created them directly. Yeah. So the fourth edition lore of another god dragon dying to create Tiamat and Bahamut is not correct, or it's correct for a dimension, but it's not true for the multiverse. Yeah, I saw you mention that, Kenneth, about the Rick and Morty module. I'm interested in checking that out. The dragon is the behemoth or a synonym for the dinosaur? Yeah, pretty much. Nice one, Jimmy. Homebrew Sharknado. As Jimmy has demonstrated, this is a monetized channel and super chats are enabled. Hey, thanks, Robert. One Neolithid plus a spell of awakening equals absolute mayhem. Absolute mayhem. Good grief. That is a dark and evil thought, Robert. I'm impressed. Is that Demogorgon narrating the beginning of his Lords of Ruin episode? No, that's Fraz Urblu who's narrating the start of the Demogorgon video. I'm glad you asked. Cross promotion, yeah. Actually, it would be better if we were in competition with each other, because that would do my channel great benefit if Mr. X came out and attacked me or something. Because then I'd get all of his viewers watching my videos as well. That's the way that the Logan Paul and them, or those two cosmetic stars at the moment who are having that beef with each other. It's all absolute nonsense. It's all a marketing ploy, and everybody's falling for it. It's like, flocking to the latest outrage. Who's got beef with who? It's like, who cares? You're being manipulated. God, Neolithid, an awakened Neolithid. That is such a good idea. Exactly. How bad would it be if demons got hold of a Spelljammer? Not too bad, really. I don't think so, Nicholas. Oh my god, the chicken came first because who was there to lay eggs in the first place? If you want to get technical, cells came first. Well, yeah. Mr. L, funny you should mention that. I've just been seriously looking at biting the bullet and getting Adobe Animate it. Because, as you know, I can draw. And there's really no excuse why I don't use that sort of technology, considering that I have actually got a drawing tablet thingy here. Whatchamacallit. What are these things called? It's Wacom. I've got a Wacom. But I never use the thing because I'm so used to drawing on paper. It's a Wacom paper, which allows me to draw on paper, and the Wacom picks up what I'm doing. But I just never really have bitten the bullet and gone into animation. But when I do, of course, that would be an entirely different thing. Yes, exactly, Padawan. Lord of the Ring Balrogs are quite different. Yeah. Oh, the Spelljammer. You mean the actual Spelljammer? Wow, well, that's a different story. I don't know. I haven't actually read up much on the Spelljammer itself. But there's a whole module on the Spelljammer vessel. So, in case anybody's wondering, Spelljammer is named Spelljammer because there is this legendary ship, this Ark-like ship, that nobody knows who built it or whatever, called the Spelljammer. It's like this amazing encounter you can have that you come across the actual Spelljammer that's flying through space. Yeah, it's like handing demons the Death Star. What do I do to keep my energy up during long sessions? I break it up a little bit, so I can sense when the players are getting a little bit bored with things, and we'll just sort of take it on a back burner. Sometimes it's a bit unavoidable, like when you've got a big long combat. Sometimes I'll cut combat short, particularly if it's like a foregone conclusion and the players are definitely going to take out the creature. Then I'll just sort of I'll cinch off those last few bits of hit points. Yeah, animation is a costly jump, but the benefit, like, you can imagine if I started an animation YouTube channel, look at some of the top animation YouTube channels around, right? The Animated Spellbook, Diddly Doodles, whatever her name is. So they're huge, absolutely huge. So any sort of animated video on YouTube does really well. And if you combine that with the sort of lore that I put out, and I could basically talk in a little bit of detail, but make, animations and stuff. If I did a cartoon, an animated cartoon of Piercer and Rover and Menzo Barons and Mean Streets, that would be crazy. It would more than pay for anything that I spent on making it. So I'm designing a Saw-style game for my players after my current campaign ends. Any fun and nasty ideas? Not really my cup of tea, Boulia. Essentially, you're looking at dungeons like the Temple of Elemental Evil. Put your hand in the hole, hand gets chopped off. Thanks, James. Are there any plans to make another Pale Knight episode? She split her episode with another creature. I think no, not really. There's no more information on Pale Knight that I could find for you, really. I mean, I know it's a very popular video, but I don't make videos just to get clicks. I really am just making videos to cover the information known, and if there's no more information, then I'm not going to make another video. And I'm really quite happy with the Pale Knight video. I think that was quite well done. With those little clips of horrific things that you see briefly. Oh yeah, definitely check out Dungeon Dad. Yep. How empathic can devils be? Extremely. Devils, of course, have been around for thousands of years, and they know human beings. They know mortals intimately. Because they need to manipulate them. So if a devil has got a reasonably high intelligence score, and their intelligence attribute, then you can just assume that they're master manipulators, and part of manipulation is empathy. They need to understand how somebody thinks and feels in order to manipulate, emulate, and steer people in the direction they want them to. They know how to motivate people. Can I do an episode on the Spelljammer? Yeah. Phlogiston, the Final Frontier. Yeah, the animated spellbook is epic. Thoughts on a Nothic player character? Not something that I would include in my campaigns. I'm not saying don't do it. I never say don't do it. Your table are your rules. But as for me, I wouldn't include a Nothic because that's not how I see Nothics. I see Nothics as cursed creatures that their thoughts have been scrambled up by Vecna. They've been cursed into a form of servitude. So not a suitable player character for my games. Pretty good, thanks Mason. What would a Vampire Queen do in Waterdeep? What additional region effects would happen? I would go straight back to the original Nosferatu movie. So there's an outbreak of rats, just rats everywhere. It's like everybody's perplexed as to why all these rats are pouring out of the sewers. Even the were-rats are perplexed as to why there's so many rats in the sewers. It's because a Vampire Queen has moved into the neighbourhood and the rats are responding to her call. Ah yes, the creatures of the night. What beautiful music they make. So, bats, rats, that sort of thing. People having strange dreams, like weird sort of waking dreams. People sleepwalking for no particular reason, so that it becomes so much easier for her to appear while they're half awake and take a couple of sneaky bites. Hey, Scorch. Well, yeah. When they say sex, they didn't say sex. They said had a child with, and in Dungeons and Dragons, it's an entirely different prospect. Because Pale Knight doesn't have a body. She is a nightmare. What will my fantasy wife look like, AJ? None of your business, Bill. Kevin. Pale Knight had a lot of views because of the thumbnail. Oh yeah, no doubt, probably. I'm not responsible for the fact that 90% of my audience is male. I don't cater to you. If I did, there'd be tits and ass in every single video, but no. That's not what I do. Same Riser. I'm making a race of cat girls for D&D. Should they worship Elon Musk? That is a bizarre question, man. Tabaxi. Go with Tabaxi. Notice I haven't seen anybody asking about half Tabaxi. Can Tabaxi breed with other races? What would a half Tabaxi girl look like? There you go. Are there any aberrant races in D&D history? Not really. There is the Scum, who are the servant race created by the Aboleths. But yeah, no sort of naturalized humanoid aberrations, really, as far as I know. There's the Chaoti, which are a bunch of mages who went over to the Far Realm and became so corrupted by it that they can't exist outside of the Far Realm without wearing this black tar-like substance as a suit. Is the Lady of Pain an overgod or something else entirely? No, she's an Oberth. So she's one of the entities from the original universe. She just happens to have come over largely psychically intact. So her body doesn't conform to the physics of the material universe that we know of. I mean, yeah, fair enough. Everybody likes a bit of sexy imagery in their D&D feed, but you know, within reason. And I don't use it as clickbait in the thumbnails. That's what I'm saying. And you know my general attitude, like I umd-and-ahed about, you know, boobs on harpies. So I do take it seriously. Mm-hmm. That is the correct answer, Padawan. Nobody talks about half tabaxi because that's furry stuff and that's just weird. I'd say you know, I'll take it easier on furries when furries police their own population. Thank you very much. Take care of your own first, furries, and then we'll respect you. So not to badger, but when will you do a solo vid on Sardior? You're promised. I'm still waiting on it, and a more in-depth look at the D&D gods than Mr. Rex if you wanted. Well, that's the thing. It's if I want to, because it's my channel and I do what I want. The Dragon Gods will be more appropriate when I'm redoing the Dragon series, because then I will have my face in books, solid Dragon lore, you know, way more than I did when I originally made those Dragon videos. So you're going to be hearing about specific dragons. You're going to be hearing about the dragon's role in history. You're going to be talking about specific beefs that they have with each other, cults, activity, religion, shrines, artifacts, draconic artifacts, known dragons in certain locations and environments. So it'll be in depth as you've gotten used to with me. So that's when I'll start talking about dragon gods in detail, I would say. Do dragons fart? Yeah, they do eat things. Sexy women used to be female empowerment. Yeah, well, times change. Ooh, Mark. That's a good way to get yourself kicked out. Bye. Play nice, people. Are there any time dragons in D&D yet? I've probably got to dig something up on time dragons because people keep asking me. Am I still doing the Netheril series? Yes, absolutely. How to change the characteristics of golems. In what way, Morgan? Oh, that's a good question, Def. Def Shepherd says, hey, could you, in theory, awaken anything if you polymorph something into a creature that can be affected by an awaken spell? Oh, yeah, I guess so, in theory. Why do you think they took the Stone Horse magic item out of 5th edition, AJ? I don't know. Maybe space saving? I mean, they've still got figurines of wondrous power, so make your own. Are there any dragons that actually inhales instead of exhales? Not as far as I know. Yeah, well, if you're a subscriber to my Patreon, there is a video on that very topic. So there is an exclusive Patreon video, which I cannot disclose the details of, about one of those gods that you mentioned. What player races, if any, have both intelligence and dexterity bonuses? Possibly high elves? Yeah, well, I don't specifically want to talk about gender politics in this day and age on my YouTube channel, thank you. Yeah, well, wishes. What about videos? Ooh, yeah. Well, that'll be interesting in future as well, Mr. L. Got some strangely predictive questions today. I'll be talking more about that sort of thing in the future with big things to reveal. Could you speculate on Orcus's human backstory? I'm having trouble understanding where he fit into the timeline and how he managed to ascend so high. How could he compete with non-mortal material planners? So we don't know what sphere Orcus came from originally. He could have come from Kryn. He could have come from Athos. We don't know how long ago it was. It could have been literally thousands of years ago. It could have been during the Green Age of Athos. We don't know. All we know is that he was once mortal, and he went through the entire process of being busted, stripped down to a crawling, mewling creature of the abyss, and crawled all his way up to becoming a demon lord. So that's what we know. Have I done a video on the Neogi? Have I done a video on the Neogi? I don't know. I feel like I have. I've done some research on the Neogi. Have I done a video on the Neogi? I don't know. Man, it's gotten to the point I've done so many videos I can't even remember. If not, I certainly will. I should. I do like the Neogi. Yeah, the Dungeon Master's Guide was overly dedicated to magic items. I wish they had done more on setting stuff, so other dimensional stuff, you know, and actually gone fully into Spelljammer and Planescape and that sort of thing. That would have been more useful. And talked about things like making big bad bosses and stuff, and how to modify creatures more, and how to make how to deal with things like people who want to. I do like the fact that they went into sort of laser guns and stuff like that, because that's quite useful. One of my favourites is a random encounter in 5th edition D&D with a Star Trek away team, and that all you really need is the spells that their technology emulates. So the ability to communicate across vast distances, teleportation, energy fields, shield, and also laser guns. Their phasers are essentially laser pistols that are found in the DMG. So it's really easy to do, actually. And so much fun. It's like, what? These things just appear out of nowhere. It's like, what? I thought I did a video on the Nyogi. There needs to be a novel about the Abyss. Well, yeah. Zion, no. So the patron exclusive content that I talked about is when in the video on the ALIP. The ALIP is whispering something in the background behind my words as I'm talking. You can hear this whispering in the background, and that was actually a secret of the multiverse that the ALIP was whispering. And in my Patron exclusive video, I reveal what the ALIP was whispering, and it has a lot to do with one of those gods. Too many videos! I know. I think I've hit 300 Monster Ecology videos, and I'm getting close to 600 videos total on my channel. So, yeah. And I'm picking up the pace, you may have noticed. So this week I put out 4 videos in between my live streams, although one of them was just me rambling about unarmed combat. By the way, definitely go and check out the unarmed combat video. That's where I cover choking, grapples, throwing targets, and how to fight in confined spaces, bar brawls, that sort of thing, using a garrote to choke as well. Sun Warrior, thank you. If you could awaken a Tarrasque, what do you think the product would be? Superman equivalent, evil tyrant, monstrous philosopher? Probably misunderstood, lonely. It's like I just want to sleep. Who knows? Hey, Kairos. An entire line of novels, yeah, well. Say you have an all-out campaign where anything goes, not safe for work or not. Is it really anything goes for you? Is there a line you won't cross? Yeah, absolutely there's a line I won't cross. Yeah, Nicholas, I saw that. So as you know, whenever you post something in the comment section, which is a link, and you've also got to be careful if you don't leave a space between a full stop and the start of your next sentence. I see that gets caught quite a few times with people who are posting on their cell phones. When you put a full stop, make sure you leave a space, otherwise it's going to think that whatever is in that sentence is a link, and then it'll pop that link into the held for review until I get to it and review it. And sometimes I miss those for days at a time. So yeah, I just want your comments to go not be impeded that way. Yeah, Mark, anything goes is never really a good idea. I mean, if you're with your group of friends, then whatever your group of friends are doing is entirely your own business. And I've got no right to tell people what sort of games they want to play. But you're asking me what's okay in my games, and I do definitely have lines that I won't cross. There's subjects in games that I'm not comfortable with, and I won't roleplay those situations. And there's things that players can do in games which I'm not comfortable with either. Just my own personal preference. But other things, like there's other lines that I do cross in my games that other people wouldn't be comfortable with, and I'm usually pretty sensitive to what my friends like and don't like. I mean, I know them, generally speaking, before I start playing with them. Or if I am playing a game with people that I don't know, then I will, I mean, you know what subjects are potentially sensitive for people, and you just be a nice person about it, and go into it carefully and considerately, because nobody wants to be that guy. And if you do want to be that guy, then maybe you shouldn't be role-playing. You know. If you're continually running into people who have problems with something that you're saying, then maybe it's not them, maybe it's you. Dark Souls campaign. Yeah, exactly, Dragon Lord. Yes, Mark, all the time. Yep. In fact, I would say that I've had Dungeons and Dragons has been the source of my best friends, and also people that I have disassociated with entirely. And it's been the catalyst, really. It's been the catalyst to starting friendships and ending friendships. So Dungeons and Dragons is great in that respect, because you really get to know somebody. I mean, you can't help it really when you're sitting down for 3 or 4 hours with somebody. You get to know that person. Yeah, I think that's probably pretty true, Carlos. That Orcus in Mortal Life was probably a powerful necromancer and just as hateful of everything. Yeah. I find myself as more as a DM. I've got no problem with playing, but I tend to gravitate towards the DM seat. When do I think I'll make a video about Xanathar? I don't know. I don't know. He's this guy, you know. Okay, everybody. It's about time that I skedaddled. I'm probably going to take a day off since I've just put out 4 videos pretty quickly. Take a day off, then carry on making videos. Let's see, what have I got listed on my list of completing the Monster Manual? Oh, if you could only read my book. So we have the Sahuagin will be coming up next. Then the Salamander from the Plane of Fire, the Satyr, the Scarecrow, the Spectre, the Sphinx, the Water Weird, the Wraith, and the Yeti. Particularly looking forward to telling you about the Wraith, because there's a trick that I do with Wraith which is really nasty. Okay, everybody. And no, I haven't done a video in depth on Asmodeus yet. Thank you for joining me on the stream. Swag on, my wayward son. Thanks, Mark. See you later, everybody.